to CLC News. Today is the 25th of January 2020. This is the second video we've actually done today, but this one has been separated because it's actually worthwhile looking at this on its own. It's to be used as a how-to video. What we'd like to do now is explain that within the last month or so, the last few weeks, we've actually put in various orders to the statutory courts to void their existing orders. Now, to let you know about this process, we've done this for David Noakes and for Linda Thayer. We've used it twice for David, and there's been 3 other cases, so we have 6 in total. What we can say is that within their existing system, there is a facility to void orders. Now, that's great news for everyone here. But unfortunately, if you were to try this within their existing system with a solicitor or a barrister or counsel, you'd have very little success of doing it, simply because to void a decision given in a court, you can only do so providing there was a fundamental flaw in the process. Now, unless there's something ridiculous happened, it's highly unlikely that a solicitor or counsel will try to void a decision, because to do so and void a judge's decision, it's not going to paint them in a good light within the existing industry, especially when they're doing so to help people. So the likelihood of this being used on a regular basis is slim to none, and as a result, very few people know about this. But the facility does actually exist. So providing you can highlight a fundamental flaw in the process, you can actually void any order within the system. Now, this applies to criminal and also civil cases. So what we've done is initially, in relation to the extradition orders for both David Noakes and Linda Thayer, we have actually voided the decisions. Now, this was done, just come up for 4 weeks ago. Now, the process is simple. You submit a cover letter, a cover note, telling the court that they've actually voided their decision. You highlight the name of the court, the date that the decision was given, and basically that you have voided this. You then inform them that you're copying in the appropriate court of record, because they'll require a copy as well, and then you attach the paperwork. Now, the initial document for the notice for voiding the document is probably ending about 15-16 pages. So it consists of the cover page. We've then put in 7 or 8 pages in relation to void issues, void orders, to let the existing judges know about their own rules and the procedures and why they have to follow these rules. We then put in a little summary about the case history, and after that you would then submit an affidavit. But in producing the paperwork, if you were to do this within the statutory system, you'd find it very difficult to come out with the result you wanted, because within their system they will always find a flaw using their own rules to shoot you down. However, if you use a common law court process, you're standing as a living man. You have also required or obtained ownership of the legal fiction, and with that you have the common law declaration, the common law court declaration. You also have a common law court lawful notice to explain basically what the common law court's about in relation to their standing as living men and the impact in relation to the statutory system. And we also have added, depending on what you're trying to void, we've added either 1 or 2 court orders. Now, the one that goes in is the common law court verdict from the court that was convened in Guildford. That was last year on the 31st of August. Now, this is prominent because at this court, the authority of the Crown and the courts were challenged. 2 judges were prosecuted, Nicholas Lorraine Smith from the UK and also Jean-Luc Godard from France. Now, they were both found guilty of committing crimes against the people. The jury then found that the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II was fraudulent in that the rules weren't complied with correctly, and in doing so it's voided the coronation ceremony, which means that the existing courts and judges have no authority or jurisdiction over living men and women. Now this is simply because they obtain their authority from the Queen, who has never truly been crowned correctly. So therefore, when you submit these documents and confirm your standing with the common law court documents, they cannot do anything about it, because these documents issued are lawful documents issued by the common law court and carry with it the authority of the people. So therefore, providing you put these documents in, you void the decision. The procedure is that you're notifying the court that the decision is voided. You do not have to print out their forms. You do not have to fill them out. You don't have to pay a fee within their system. Now normally, if this is not done, they would return your paperwork telling you that it hasn't been done correctly, you haven't paid the fee, or it's not in the appropriate form. This is not applicable here. You're voiding the order and you're only informing the court so that they now have an obligation to set it aside. Now, having done that for both David Noakes and Linda Thayer, we put the paperwork in. Coincidentally, we have had back acknowledgement from the courts that they are in possession of our orders. They didn't refer to them as documents. They didn't refer to them as paperwork. They confirmed that they are in receipt of the orders. They have done nothing about it. They didn't require a fee. They didn't require the paperwork on their forms. They have taken it and passed it on to the appropriate judge to deal with. Now the judge has an obligation to set it aside, but the response that we've had back initially from one of the judges was that, okay, yes, we've got the paperwork, however, we don't wish to correspond to this matter because the judge cannot do anything about it, which is a white lie. The only thing that the judge can do is set it aside, and not only that, according to their own legislation, if they fail to do so, they're committing crimes in relation to the people, and also should they fail to comply with their own rules. So what we've also done is notify the various authorities about this and politicians, and pointing out that if the existing courts and the judges do nothing about this, they have an obligation to assist the people and to make sure that this is dealt with correctly. Unfortunately, the politicians don't want to respond either. So there is a process here, but it does work, and what we're now doing is letting the people know that they can also use this. Now, what we've done is we've set up a new page on the website. Now, within the website, there's a new heading which is entitled Shop. Within the shop option, you can obviously get your original documents, your birth certificate, etc. So there is one for document and certificates. The second option is for your CLC card, which you can get, and the third option, which is the one we're discussing, is in relation to void orders. Now, when you click onto this void order option, you'll be given a choice of 6 categories. Now, each one of these categories allow you to void a court decision. Now, with the 6 categories, providing you select the appropriate one, it will cover literally any decision within the statutory courts. That applies for any level of court and any judge, because the fundamental flaw that they are committing or they're making when they issue a decision is they're doing so against a living man or a living woman. They have no authority over the living man or living woman. They cannot ever obtain parity with a living man or living woman, and they can only deal with prosecuting the person or the corporation, which are legal fictions. So providing you stand as a living man or woman, they cannot issue a decision against you, and that creates the fundamental flaw. Now, within the system, you have 6 different categories. We've listed them as, first of all, you have 2, one for civil actions or one for criminal actions, which mean that any civil charge or order given against you or finding can be reversed, similar to both civil and criminal. The other options available, we put in 4 different categories. There is an option here to void bankruptcy orders, because they're using the legal fiction to bankrupt an individual by using criminal coercion, which is a crime in itself, but you can do it there. There is another option, a category for children. The state are removing children. Now, we're not getting into a discussion regarding the removal of children individually. What we're stating is that in general the state are doing so unlawfully. Now, there are cases when children should be removed from the house for their own protection, which the common law court and many people will turn around and agree with that. However, that's not the issue we're discussing. We're discussing the fraudulent and illegal and criminal behaviour of the state when they remove children from homes, which effectively is kidnapping. Now, there is also another category which deals with property issues. Now, property issues meaning the theft of property through the mortgage industry, the banks, the solicitors and the courts. It's corrupt what they're doing. They have no right to take a house. They're evicting thousands of people, stealing homes and removing assets from them. It's crime on a huge scale, but they've been getting away with it for years, but now you can void these orders as well. And then the last category, believe it or not, is council tax. It's council tax is used within the UK. We won't argue just now that the fact that these council tax documents are created fraudulently and they're created by the councils. They assure us that they've been issued by the court and they will be at the local court where they hire a room to process these applications. So if we take what they're saying as gospel, now we don't agree with it, but if we were to turn around and give them the benefit of the doubt and say, yes, okay, fine, you may have an order. If that's the case, because it's an order, it allows us to void it. So you can now void council tax claims against you simply by putting in the paperwork to the local court, letting them know that you're voiding it, and notifying a superior court, the court of record. When you do so, it says that voids it, which means that the council can't continue. And also, if an individual for the council wishes to proceed against you to try and enforce this, they would then be held personally liable using their own acts of parliament. I think it was the Crown Proceedings Act from 1947. They can be held personally accountable. So the procedure is here. What we are doing, the way it works, if you click onto the category, there is information at the bottom of each page letting you know roughly how to proceed with this. But to explain the process very simply, there's one main document which is the void certificate, the void order. Within each category, if you click onto the void order, there's a template document which all you need to do is insert the relevant information. Now, the relevant information will be your name under common law, the legal fiction attached to you, the date you went to court, the court you went to, the judge's name, the court reference. So there's not a lot of information to input, but if you do that for the document, print the document off, and then you require 3 witnesses to witness your signature. So if you get that done, there are other documents which are called exhibits, and these are the evidence files that you put in along with the court document, the void order. The exhibits, as we call them, are all there. It's just a matter of printing out and attaching. However, you will notice that the first exhibits are missing. Exhibit number 1 is missing because that is the court order that was issued against you. So when you were taken to court and you were told to attend a hearing, they will have given a decision which will confirm the court, the details, the date of the hearing and the reference number for the court. So therefore you would take a copy of that, photocopy, up in the top right hand corner, print exhibit 1, that will be your first one. And then you have additional exhibits which would be your common law birth certificate and the certificate for ownership of the legal fiction, which you number appropriately. It's in the void document, so if you actually see how to number the documents, attach the documents there and then send them off. Now you'll be required to send them off via recorded delivery. You send 1 copy to the court that issued the decision against you, and the second one to the court of record. Now the court of record, depending on where you are within the UK, can be either the Royal Courts of Justice in London, or it could be the Court of Session in Scotland. Now if it's in either of these courts, you click on to the court name and also there's an address. But bearing in mind, if you go to the Royal Courts of Justice and similarly the Court of Session in Scotland, it can be for either a criminal charge or a civil charge. So therefore what you do is on the front page there is an address with a drop down menu. If you click on the drop down menu, select the appropriate court to lodge this to, and when you click it, it will print into the document. You then complete the document, attach the additional files and send off your copies. Now, after 2 days, when the copies go in and they've been signed for via recorded delivery, there will be an email that you need to send in to the court to confirm basically that you now require confirmation that this order has been set aside. Give them 2 days, 2 or 3 days to do so. If they fail to get back to you, write back again via email to tell them that you've heard nothing and that you want this dealt with as a matter of urgency, but because they failed to deal with it in the first instance, you're now copying in the various politicians, including Boris Johnson. When you do that, give them another 2 or 3 days and state that if it's not been dealt with by the appropriate court, you now require the politicians and even Boris Johnson to step in, the Prime Minister, to put things right. If they fail to do so, they're all committing crimes against the people, and as such they should be removed, bearing in mind that we pay their salary and they are there supposedly protecting the people, and yet they're guilty of committing crimes against the people, which is treason, and also a misprision of treason for those who assist with this. If after the third one they haven't responded, it's suggested then that the third email that's sent out, you then repeatedly send in every day until this issue is dealt with. Now, this covers various things. As it says, any decision against you. For example, council tax. If you have a council tax problem and they've issued an order against you, you can actually avoid it. The same is also applicable for CCJs. CCJs are orders given against a legal fiction. Now, if you've identified yourself as a living man or living woman, and you can prove that with a registration on the Common Law Court site, by doing that, you can then submit the paperwork. So they have no grounds to issue CCJs against you, so you can avoid them. The same applies for bankruptcy. It helps with the unlawful removal and kidnapping of children. It helps with obviously mortgages, theft of property, and various other things. Basically, any offence at all, any order that's issued through a court, whether it be civil or criminal, can be voided, and this is within their own system. The paperwork that you're actually giving refers to numerous people, including Lady Hale, who's in charge of the Supreme Court just now. It's also confirming statements from Lord Denning and previous case precedents as well. So all these cases are backing up that you can void decisions and you can do so within the system. They have no choice but to comply with this. Now, the interesting thing is, while we've put in 6 of these already, in each case that we're aware of, the judges have looked at the paperwork and they can do nothing about it. They haven't got rid of them, they can't get rid of them, they can't deal with them, but what they're doing just now is staying quiet. However, that's unacceptable, because in doing so they're committing crimes and they will be held accountable. But by filling this out yourself and submitting it, it voids any and all decisions against you previously issued. So feel free to use this. Tell your friends about this. Please share this information on social media and get this out straight away. The same website is set up, it's commonlawcourt.com. If you go into that and register your birth, record a declaration of your birth, that confirms your standing as a living man or woman. This is free of charge to do. Similarly, you can then obtain ownership of your fictitious name under the deeds heading. You would fill out the form for ownership of the fictitious name. That confirms that you can then proceed with this option to void orders. The void orders is under the shop facility, and what we've actually done is provided all the paperwork for you, all the exhibits and copies that you just have to print out and send in. However, because of the work that we're actually currently doing, and obviously the work that we hope to do in the future, we're actually looking for some assistance with this. So what we've done is we've charged a nominal fee of £5 for all this paperwork. So once you've paid the £5, you will get access to all the paperwork, and you will get a link for it. So for example, if you have a decision against you for bankruptcy, you click onto the bankruptcy, pay your £5 for that category, and you then get access to all the paperwork and documents. That will stay permanently open. So therefore, if you had a friend or you have a problem, you wanted to go back and do the same, you've got access to the documents. Just go back in again. And that's obviously with the payment of the £5. That in itself will help develop and continue to develop what we're doing now with the Common Law Court. But we are actually making great strides just now, and the work that's been done behind closed doors with the people involved in this is great. We'll continue this year to develop, and we're hoping to get quite a few results this year. But in the meantime, we're hoping to get matters resolved for David, Noakes and Lynn Thayer. We have voided the orders, so technically there's no order against them just now. It's just a matter of now getting the politicians to deal with this and to get Lynn Thayer home. So fingers crossed that'll work out. But if you wish to use this yourself, please go onto the site under the shop facility and void any of the orders that have been attached to yourself. They've been done so unlawfully by using the legal fiction, and if you're not sure about the legal fiction, please check the previous video that was submitted today on YouTube, when we've actually covered a little bit about that and the behaviour of the authorities. Hopefully you've enjoyed this information. Please share this. It will be applicable everywhere, so share it on social media, let your friends know about it. And again, within the next couple of weeks, there will also be the facility on the site whereby once you've actually submitted your order, you can actually record this information on the site as well, and you will set up a search facility as well for everyone that's used this. But bearing in mind, the more people that do this and use the system, the easier it is to change if we do it together. The forms are already done. It's just a matter of print them off, sign them and send them off. The emails that you require will be posted probably over the next few days. The emails will go up on the site under the community heading, and there is a section for documentation. If you go into the documentation, there'll be a link there. I think it's option number 10, which is documentation for the website. If you click on that, you will see the option there for void emails. Click on that and they're free to send off. When you send off these emails, there will be the email addresses attached to them. So all you need to do is copy and paste the email addresses in, and they'll be sent off to the appropriate individuals. Okay? Hopefully you've enjoyed this information. Please share this, and remember, if you're watching this just now on our YouTube channel, please subscribe to this channel, as you will get any and all videos that come out as soon as they're posted. Okay? Thank you for joining, and hopefully we'll see you shortly. There will be another video posted probably over the next week. Thank you. Goodbye.